Have you ever noticed how the weight you carry isn't always visible? How you can walk into a room smiling, laughing even, and no one would suspect that your chest feels heavy, not because of what's happening in that moment, but because of everything you've been holding for far too long. It's the kind of heaviness that lives quietly beneath your ribs, the kind that doesn't make noise but still takes your breath away. You learn to live with it, to smile through it, to function around it, to tuck it neatly behind your kindness, so that no one ever has to see how much you've been carrying. Maybe you've been the strong one for as long as you can remember, the one who listens, the one who understands, the one who forgives, even when no one says they're sorry. You've been the anchor, the safe place, the quiet strength in everyone else's storm. People depend on you, lean on you, confide in you. You are the steady one, the person who doesn't fall apart, who knows what to say, who keeps things together when everything else seems to be unraveling. But lately, something inside you has started to ache. Not the kind of ache that a nap or a night out can fix, but the kind that whispers, "You're exhausted," the kind that murmurs in the background of your days. You've been carrying what was never yours to hold. You wake up tired. You go to sleep restless. You function. You perform. You smile. But deep down, something feels off, like you're slowly fading behind your own eyes. You know that feeling, the invisible heaviness that follows you everywhere. It's not always sadness. Sometimes it's just tired. Tired of being the one who keeps it together. Tired of being the one who always knows what to do. Tired of showing up when no one shows up for you. Tired of pretending it's okay when you're running on empty. You tell yourself, "It's fine. I can handle it." And you can, that's the problem. You always can. But handling it isn't the same as healing it. You can carry everyone else's pain for years and still never learn how to set yours down. There's a loneliness that comes with being the strong one. People don't check on you because they assume you're okay. They don't ask if you're hurting because they believe you can handle anything. They don't see the cracks forming under your calm because they've never imagined a world where you might need help too. But strength doesn't mean invincibility. And endurance isn't peace. You start to wonder when you became the person who comforts everyone else but rarely receives comfort yourself. You start to question when being strong turned into being silent. You realize how easily people forget that even the strongest shoulders can ache. The truth is, emotional weight doesn't always show up as tears or breakdowns. Sometimes it shows up as numbness, as withdrawal, as the quiet dread that greets you every morning when you open your eyes and remember how much of yourself you still have to give. You look around and see a world that rewards resilience but rarely honors rest. You hear messages like, "Keep going," "Be strong," "Push through." But no one ever tells you how to put things down. No one teaches you that healing sometimes looks like stopping, like saying, "I can't carry this anymore." And that realization is both terrifying and freeing. There comes a moment, maybe it's in the shower, or on a late drive home, or in the middle of folding laundry, when it finally hits you. You don't want to keep doing this anymore. You don't want to keep being the person who absorbs everyone else's chaos while suppressing your own. You don't want to keep pretending that being needed is the same as being loved. You don't want to keep mistaking endurance for peace. You realize that being the strong one has cost you something. Pieces of your joy, moments of your youth, parts of yourself that you gave away because you thought love meant sacrifice. But love isn't supposed to drain you. Compassion isn't supposed to erase you. Caring for others shouldn't mean abandoning yourself. You start to see it, the patterns, the conditioning, the small ways you learn to prioritize everyone else. You start noticing how much of your identity has been shaped by other people's needs, how much of your energy has been spent rescuing people who were never meant to be your responsibility. You see how your kindness became currency, how you bought connection with your own depletion, how you offered yourself in pieces just to keep the peace. And for the first time, you ask, when did caring for others become a reason to forget myself? This realization doesn't come with fireworks or dramatic music. It comes quietly, like a whisper in the back of your mind that you can't ignore anymore. You feel something inside you stirring, something that says, it's time to come home to yourself. Here's the truth. You're not breaking down, you're breaking open. That heaviness you feel, it's your soul's way of saying no more. It's the moment before transformation, the pause before rebirth. It's what happens when a heart that has spent years carrying others finally decides to return to itself. You've mistaken exhaustion for failure, but it's actually awakening. You've mistaken disconnection for loss, but it's actually realignment. You're not becoming cold, you're becoming clear. Because for the first time you're asking questions you've never asked before. What about me? Who carries me when I'm the one who always carries everyone else? What if I stopped trying to be everything to everyone and started being something to myself? That question, that trembling, sacred question, is the beginning of remembering your own worth. It's the crack in the armor that lets the light in. It's the first sign that you're ready to release what you've outgrown. And slowly you start to see that healing isn't about becoming stronger. It's about becoming softer with yourself. It's not about proving your resilience. It's about reclaiming your rest. You realize that self-care isn't selfish. It's sacred. It's the daily act of saying, I deserve to exist outside of what I give. Let's talk about who you used to be. That version of you who believed love was earned through effort, who believed that being needed was the same as being valued, who believed that silence was safer than honesty, who apologized for things that weren't your fault just to keep the peace. That self, the caretaker, the fixer, the peacekeeper, was born out of survival. You learned early that being good meant being useful, that being loved meant being needed, that your emotions took up too much space and your worth was tied to how much you could endure. You became fluent in the language of suppression, smiling through pain, swallowing your truth, shrinking your needs. You became the person everyone could rely on, but rarely the one who felt truly seen. That old self was never the full truth of you. It was a mask you wore to stay safe, a role you played to belong, a survival strategy that kept you alive, but not free. You didn't know then that your constant giving was a form of self-protection, that being the dependable one made you feel in control in a world that often felt unpredictable. You didn't know that your overfunctioning was just another way of saying, please don't leave me, but now you see it. Now you understand that the version of you who took care of everyone else was just trying to earn the love she never felt secure in receiving, that the strong one was also the scared one, afraid that if she stopped giving, she'd stop being needed, and if she wasn't needed, she wouldn't be loved. It's okay to love that old version of yourself. She did what she had to do to survive. She kept you safe when you didn't know another way, but she doesn't need to drive anymore. She can rest now. You can thank her for her service, and let her go, because you don't have to be the hero anymore. You don't have to hold everyone else together to prove your worth. You don't have to keep performing strength just to be loved. You get to be whole now, not for anyone else, but for yourself. At first, it feels strange. This thing called boundaries, this act of choosing yourself. You start saying no more often. You stop explaining yourself to people who never tried to understand you. You begin noticing how drained you feel after certain conversations, and you leave them earlier. You no longer chase after those who drift away. You stop overgiving just to feel accepted. You stop forcing connections that don't feel reciprocal. At first it feels foreign, almost wrong, like you're betraying someone. But the more you practice it, the more you realize that what you're betraying isn't love, it's your own exhaustion. Something in your spirit shifts. You crave quiet. You crave authenticity. You crave depth over drama, peace over chaos, truth over comfort. And yes, at first it's lonely, because when you stop carrying everyone, you realize how few people ever carried you. But slowly, the emptiness becomes space. Space to breathe, space to rest, space to exist without performing. And in that stillness, you start hearing your own voice again, the one you silenced for so long. It's soft at first, almost unfamiliar, but it's honest. And it says, this is who I am. Not everyone will understand your shift. Some will say you've changed and they'll mean it like it's a bad thing. Some will accuse you of being distant, selfish, or cold, because they only knew how to love you when you were convenient. But the people meant for you will stay. They'll respect your boundaries. They'll admire your peace. They'll celebrate your wholeness instead of exploiting your empathy. Others will fall away naturally, and that's okay. Not everyone is meant to meet the healed version of you. Some people were only aligned with your wounds, and when you stop living from that place, the connection dissolves. You'll grieve them, of course. Letting go doesn't mean you stop caring. It just means you stop caring. And then, one day, you'll wake up lighter. You'll notice you can breathe deeper. You'll sit in silence and not feel the urge to fill it. You'll stop replaying conversations in your head, trying to make sense of things that were never yours to fix. You'll look in the mirror and realize you're finally choosing yourself, not out of defiance, but devotion. Not because you stopped loving others, but because you started loving yourself. You'll notice how peace feels nothing like perfection. It feels like release. It feels like being able to exist without explaining. It feels like coming home. Healing isn't about becoming untouchable. It's about becoming transparent, allowing life to move through you without clinging. It's not about building walls. It's about building boundaries. Not about isolation, but discernment. You start to understand that your peace was never meant to be earned. It was meant to be protected. That you are not required to explain every no or justify every decision that honors your well-being. That there is a quiet kind of power in saying, I can love you and still choose me. At first it feels uncomfortable, almost like you're breaking some invisible rule you never agreed to but somehow always followed. You notice how the world reacts when you stop overextending. The confusion, the pushback, the subtle guilt trips disguised as concern. People who benefited from your endless giving may call your boundaries walls. They may accuse you of changing, and they're right. You have. But change is not betrayal. Change is the evidence of healing. You begin to see that your old patterns weren't kindness. They were coping mechanisms. Over-apologizing wasn't humility. It was fear. Overgiving wasn't generosity. It was the hope that if you gave enough, maybe you'd finally be enough. Now, you start redefining what love looks like. Love, you realize, is not the frantic effort to prove your worth. It's the calm acceptance that your worth was never in question. It's not sacrificing yourself to make others comfortable. It's showing up as your whole self, even if it makes others uncomfortable. You'll learn that it's okay to be unavailable to chaos. It's okay to disappoint people who expect you to shrink. It's okay to rest without guilt. It's okay to say that's not mine to hold. Because sometimes the most loving thing you can do is put something down, not in anger, not in resentment, but in surrender. You'll realize you were never meant to be everyone's answer. You were meant to be your own truth. You were never meant to fix people, only to witness them and choose what aligns with your peace. You start noticing how peace feels in your body. How it's quieter than you expected, softer than you imagined. It doesn't announce itself. It simply settles in when you stop chasing what hurts. And when you finally stop trying to carry everyone else, you discover a deeper kind of love. One that doesn't demand you to disappear. A love that begins with honoring your own boundaries, your own body, your own breath. The rebirth doesn't happen all at once. It's not a single sunrise that washes everything clean. It's a gradual unlearning, a slow exhale after years of holding your breath. At first, it's subtle. You start noticing beauty again in the small, quiet ways, in the sound of morning light through your window, in the way a breeze moves through open curtains, in the rhythm of your own heartbeat when you finally pause long enough to listen. You start to realize how much life you missed while you were busy holding the world together, how many sunsets you rushed through, how many conversations you half heard because your mind was already tending to someone else's wounds. Now, you move differently. You walk slower. You breathe deeper. You speak with intention. You let silence exist without filling it. At first, this stillness feels foreign, even a little frightening. You're so used to movement, to doing, to fixing, that resting feels almost rebellious. You catch yourself waiting for the next problem to solve, the next person to save, the next crisis to manage. And when none comes, there's a strange emptiness, the absence of chaos you once mistook for meaning. But over time, that emptiness transforms into presence. You realize this stillness isn't a void, it's spaciousness. It's the room you never had to hear yourself think, to feel your own feelings, to remember your own dreams. Your heart begins to expand again, not because it's empty, but because it's full of self-respect, of truth, of clarity. You find that your capacity for love grows deeper, not because you're pouring yourself out, but because you're rooted in overflow. You start to see that love doesn't need to be earned, and peace doesn't need to be proven. You don't have to chase either anymore. You simply have to allow them. One day, you catch yourself laughing, not the polite kind of laughter you use to make others comfortable, but the kind that rises from somewhere genuine and unguarded. You realize you're not performing joy anymore. You're feeling it, and that's when you know something fundamental has shifted. You begin to live in a slower rhythm, one aligned with your breath, your truth, your inner knowing. You stop asking the world for permission to rest. You stop waiting for validation from people who never saw your light in the first place. You start noticing how the smallest acts, drinking water slowly, stepping outside at sunset, saying no without guilt, feel like rebellion and relief at the same time. You learn that healing doesn't mean you'll never hurt again. It means you'll no longer abandon yourself when you do. This rebirth isn't about becoming a different person. It's about returning to the person you were before the world taught you to hide. It's remembering that your softness is not a weakness, that your sensitivity is not a flaw. It's reclaiming the parts of you that once felt too tender to show. You'll have days when you slip back into old habits, days when you say yes out of guilt, when you absorb emotions that aren't yours, when you feel that familiar weight on your chest. But this time, you'll notice, you'll catch it, you'll pause before you drown. And that pause, that single breath of awareness, is proof that you're healing. You'll start to understand that growth is not linear. Some days, you'll feel free. Other days, you'll feel fragile. Both are sacred. Both are part of the unfolding. Because healing isn't about reaching a finish line. It's about remembering that you were never broken in the first place. It's about returning, again and again, to yourself. When you stop carrying everyone else, you start walking differently. Your steps become lighter. Your words softer. Your energy clearer. You no longer move from obligation, but from authenticity. You begin to understand that saying yes to yourself isn't selfish. It's an act of honesty. It's the simple acknowledgement that your needs are not negotiable, that your rest is not a luxury, that your peace is not a prize to be earned after everyone else has been tended to. You forgive yourself for staying too long, for trying too hard, for confusing self-sacrifice with love. You understand now that you were doing your best with what you knew, and that's enough. You begin to see that every time you said yes when you meant no, it was just a younger version of you begging not to be abandoned. And you hold that version of yourself gently now. You tell them, you don't have to earn your place anymore. You're already safe. You start having conversations with your past selves, the one who felt unseen, the one who overgave, the one who was terrified of being too much. You hold them all in compassion. You let them know they no longer have to carry what they once did. And in that moment, something inside you exhales for the first time in years. You start living from that exhale, from ease instead of effort, from peace instead of performance, from love instead of fear. You start making choices that align with your body, not your trauma. You begin trusting your intuition, the soft voice that was always right, even when you ignored it. And you realize, returning home to yourself isn't a destination, it's a daily devotion. Some days it looks like saying no. Some days it looks like rest. Some days it looks like tears, laughter, or silence. But every day, it looks like honesty, the kind that whispers, I am allowed to be me. So if you're reading this, and you're tired, not just physically but soul tired, I want you to know something simple and true. It's okay to rest. It's okay to stop holding it all together. It's okay to not be everyone's savior. It's okay to fall apart for a while and let the pieces rearrange themselves in silence. You don't have to earn your rest by first collapsing. You don't have to prove your worth through exhaustion. You don't have to keep rescuing people who refuse to save themselves. You have given enough. You have carried enough. And you have nothing left to prove. Let that truth sink in, slowly, like sunlight through fog. You are allowed to rest without guilt. You are allowed to exist without performing. You are allowed to take up space simply because you are here. When the old stories rise, the ones that whisper you're being selfish or you're letting people down, breathe through them. Ask yourself, who taught me that love means depletion? Who convinced me that my rest was neglect? Because somewhere along the line, someone mistook your generosity for obligation, and you believed them. But you can unlearn that belief. You can teach your nervous system a new rhythm, one where safety isn't earned through usefulness, but felt through presence. The people who are meant for you will not require you to disappear. They will not mistake your boundaries for rejection or your silence for indifference. They will meet you in your wholeness, not just your service. And yes, some people will fall away when you stop overgiving. That loss will sting, but notice what happens after the sting. Space, breath, relief. That's not emptiness, that's freedom. Begin to fill that space intentionally, with rest, with art, with still mornings and unhurried evenings, with the things that make you feel alive, not just functional. Drink your coffee slowly. Write without worrying if it's profound. Walk without purpose other than to feel your feet touch the earth. Let music wash over you until you remember that joy can be quiet too. And when the urge to pick the weight back up comes, because it will, remind yourself gently, I'm allowed to leave this down. You are not abandoning anyone by choosing yourself. You are simply refusing to abandon you. The world will tell you that selfishness is sin, but it rarely tells you that self-neglect is too. Balance is the bridge between both, and that bridge is built one small act of self-respect at a time. You don't have to rush your healing. You don't have to turn it into a performance. You don't need to share every breakthrough or name every wound. Healing isn't a race. It's a relationship between you and your own soul. So tend to it gently. Speak kindly to it. Let it unfold at its own pace. The best parts of you are not gone. They've just been waiting for permission to return. You've spent years carrying others. Now it's time to carry yourself. Carry your peace. Carry your boundaries. Carry your softness, your truth, your freedom. You have been everything to everyone. Now be everything to you. Because the world doesn't need another selfless soul running on empty. It needs people who are full of light, full of honesty, full of love that doesn't cost them everything. So breathe. Set it down. All the weight, all the expectations, all the roles that no longer fit. Let your hands be empty for once. Feel how light they are. Notice how your shoulders settle when you no longer have to lift what isn't yours. Maybe peace was never about fixing or achieving or earning. Maybe peace was simply what remained when you stopped pretending. Maybe you don't need to find yourself at all. Maybe you just need to stop leaving yourself behind. This is your permission to rest, to release, to return to yourself. You are allowed to choose a softer life. One built not on proving, but on presence. One where rest is sacred, not shameful. One where love is chosen, not chased. And when the world calls you selfish for doing so, smile gently. Because they don't yet understand that protecting your energy is how you protect your capacity to love. This is not the end of your story. It's the pause before the next chapter. A chapter written in your own language, at your own pace, with your own truth guiding every line. You were never meant to carry everyone else. You were meant to be freely, fully, unapologetically you. And now, finally, you are.